Hello, friends. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. I just have a little bit of time before I head out, so I wanted to put together a short video for you. I called this video Economics, Politics, and How I Got Rich. Now, of course, I can't cover that in a single video because it's too much information. And so I'm going to divide that up. I'm going to cover all those topics, but I'm going to also later on make separate videos on each of those topics. Now, when I say how I got rich is a relative term, and so I post that jokingly, really, because it's a relative term compared to the 1%. I'm broke. Compared to people living paycheck to paycheck, I'm financially independent. So that being said, let's move forward on that. I'm a little groggy. It's still early for me, even though it's well into the morning. But I've got some Java on the go here, and let's get started. First of all, I studied economics in school. I took a Bachelor of Commerce majored in economics. Now you can't do that at Concordia anyway. Now it's considered a BA, which is a better categorization of that topic, because economics, the economics that I studied, micro and macroeconomics at the university level, was very theoretical. They were trying to overcomplicate it. They were trying to introduce mathematics into it. And so it didn't really help me to understand how the economy works. What did help me a lot more to understand was reading books that explained how economics works for the layperson. For example, instead of reading a book by Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations, or something by Milton Friedman, or something dealing with in-depth theoretical economic concepts, I would read a book explaining those books to me. And that helped me learn a lot about, especially when it comes to the idea of importing and exporting, the idea of trade, the idea of trading between countries that'll help prosper both countries, so that when trade happens, each participant in that trade benefits. And you get a broad understanding of economics. It'll help you understand how you're trading your time for revenue. And so going all the way back, I always had an interest in finance, economics, accounting, those type of topics, as well as motivational topics. So I had a good background, and I studied hard, and I tried to educate myself the best I could. So I'll talk more about economics in another video, but for now I just wanted to mention it briefly. And also on that segue, Pierre Poilievre has a good understanding of basic economics, and he's able to explain it in a way that's understandable for the layperson. Again, those type of learning so that you can understand the basic principles of economics, I think is very, very helpful. And because I mentioned his name, I wanted to briefly mention the current political situation. We have a current political situation where the Liberal Party and the NDP have joined forces to solidify their power in Parliament, so they can stay in, so that the Liberals can stay in power. There's no risk of them being voted out through a non-confidence motion. There's no threat of that until 2020, until the end of their term, which extends till 2025. So they've solidified their position in Parliament for the next few years. And I wanted to mention on that note, I think the only way that the opposition, which would be the Conservative Party currently, would have an ability to counter that is by doing the same thing, is by beating them at their own game, is by amalgamating the other parties together with them. This has been impossible so far because of a variety of reasons, mostly differences in ideology. But as you can see, the Conservative Party has adopted a lot of the talking points of the People's Party. The People's Party was the only party that was standing up against the restriction of freedoms of Canadians, standing up against lockdowns and mandates and detrimental government policy. But we have a different Conservative Party now than we had when the People's Party was gaining in power, gaining in popularity amongst Canadians. When the People's Party was gaining in popularity, who was the leader of the Conservative Party? It was Erin O'Toole. And he was a liberal. He was a left-wing woke ideologue that subscribed to all the same values that Trudeau did. And so he was not very good for the Canadians who wanted to have representation for their conservative values, so to speak. But now, since Poilievre has adopted a lot of those traditional conservative ideas politically, he is gaining in popularity. And so it's a different party than it was recently. The idea of splitting the vote only makes sense when you have multiple parties representing the same thing. As long as you have multiple parties that have independent ideas, then it doesn't matter how many political parties you have. You can have 2, 3, 5, 10, doesn't matter. If the people are able to vote their conscience and those political parties are each different, then there is no splitting the vote. You got to look at it from a logical basis. It's voting for the party that you believe best represents you, and you're voting your conscience. And you have to turn a blind eye to however many parties there are and who's taking votes from somebody and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter. But when you have parties that are representing the same ideals or promoting the same talking points, now you're in a situation where splitting the vote argument is actually real. If the Conservative Party is now espousing the same talking points and values as the People's Party, now you have a situation where you're splitting the vote because it's either or. You say, well, they're speaking the same thing. He's saying he wants to end the mandates. He's saying he wants to end the mandates. He's saying he wants to reduce government spending. He's saying he wants to reduce government spending. He says he's willing to promote domestic production in different industries. He's saying want to promote domestic. Now, there's going to be minor differences between all the parties, of course. And there's always going to be people who say, oh, no, the Conservatives are just globalists and they have no integrity. I understand that argument. I've heard that argument before. However, if you take what they're saying at face value, which is never a good idea listening to a politician, is it? But really, we have to listen to what they're saying. What are they standing up for? What are they promoting? If they are promoting similar values, then you have to stand back and say, wait a minute, if these two parties are moving in the same direction, you have to, why not beat the Liberals at their own game? The Liberals convinced the NDP to join them and say, listen, we want to promote these things. These are some of your talking points. We're in danger of getting run out of office because all the Canadians hate us. Most Canadians hate you too. Let's join forces together and I'm not saying that's what they said, but you know what I mean, right? So Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau had to have a cooperative effort. If Pierre Poilievre can have a cooperative effort with Maxime Bernier, think of the synergy. Maxime has already said he's not 100% gung-ho about becoming the prime minister. He wants to build his party. Now, I know this seems like an absolute impossibility. People will say, oh no, they're totally ideologically separate. They'll never have a meeting of the minds. There's too much ego involved, on and on and on. Many different reasons. Like I said, I could make a whole separate video about this, so I'm going to just cut it short. But this is the only sensible opportunity with this amount of time before the next election is for the Conservative Party to join forces with other like-minded conservative groups. The People's Party, maybe the Ontario Party on a provincial level or what have you. Maybe Western independent parties, right? Maybe Reform, maybe Christian Heritage, maybe there's a scattering of other conservative small c political parties on the Canadian landscape right now, which are fragmented. And unless they can cooperate and come together and check their egos at the door and say, okay, we have to reach a consensus here for our own benefit, then it's just going to be the Conservative, it's just going to be the Liberal NDP coalition permanently. And that's not a good situation because there's a lot of incompetence within those two parties, in my opinion. That's all I want to say about politics. Let's move on and talk about prospering. This is a topic that is interesting to a lot of people, is how to prosper. I studied in school. I graduated. I was broke. I come from a working class background, so I don't come from a family with any money. I worked my way through school. I always worked part-time. I always had a job while I was in school studying of one type or another. And so after I graduated, I took a job and I just started saving money. I said, if I save this much money, I'll be able to save $2,000 a year. And after 5 years, I had saved up $10,000. And then that $10,000 was the springboard into many different opportunities for me. Investing, starting many different businesses, and that I could talk about, but I'm not going to go into detail because it's too long and boring. But essentially, there are two main things. Solomon said, give a portion to 7 or 8 because you don't know how things are going to turn out. I probably give a portion to 10 or 12. And most of my business efforts did not work out. But the two that did work out for me was in real estate and in writing, those two areas. Now, in writing, I decided that I wanted to write because I thought that it could produce some residual income for me. And so I spent, a lot of time and effort, maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months to write my first book. I self-published it on Amazon and nothing happened. But I didn't want to quit. I wanted to persist. So I started to see what was successful for other people. And I came to the conclusion that it wasn't so much a big, huge effort that made a difference. A lot of times it was smaller, consistent, more targeted efforts to provide not what I wanted to express, but to provide what people are looking for. Because this, I think, is a principle that is valuable in succeeding financially and succeeding in a number of different areas, is don't try and provide what you think is valuable. Provide what the market is telling you to provide. Provide what the market is asking for ahead of time. And so I ended up self-publishing close to 200 books that were a lot more targeted. And of those 200, probably close to half of them failed. That is, they weren't able to address market demand. And so I ended up deleting them. Or they were just not, I just unpublished them because they weren't working. And so about half of them, about 100 self-published books continued to sell. And out of those 100, a very small number, less than 10, consistently produced revenue for me to produce a small residual income. So like having, a job that provides you with, minimum wage, less than minimum wage, right? And so that provides an ongoing income for me, kind of like a retirement income. The second area is real estate. When I came to Waterloo, the only thing I had was what I could put in my car, and I had a small amount of savings. So I didn't have any assets, but I had a small amount of savings. And I started working in real estate as a real estate agent. I worked very, very hard, and I slowly was able to purchase a home and then rent that out, purchase another home, renovate it, sell it, purchase another home. And so the home that we're in now, we're in the process of selling that home. Now, we bought that home 15 years ago for, a significant amount of investment at the time. It seemed like a huge amount of money. And so now we are selling it and downsizing into a small home that we can have free and clear. And so we'll be debt free, and we'll have a small residual income. And so those things have worked out not based on luck, I don't believe, but to back up and to understand that there's people that are highly skilled, there's people that make, several $100,000 per year in income, and yet they don't reach a position where they feel like they're financially independent. And so I wouldn't consider them rich. I consider somebody rich that doesn't have to worry about struggling to earn a living. And so in that sense, I consider myself, quote unquote, rich. But to back up, I've always believed in Jeremiah 29 that says that God has plans to prosper us. And by us, I mean anybody. God wants to prosper individual people. And I gravitated towards that, and I had faith to believe that God wanted me to prosper. And so to have faith means to believe that you'll be rewarded for your efforts. That basically is the starting point to prospering, to doing well financially. If you believe that God is on your side, that he wants you to prosper and be happy, and that he says, after you've gotten rich, he says, don't say this is from my efforts. Don't say my hands have brought this for me. He says, don't say that. He says, acknowledge that God gave you the power to prosper. God gave you the power to gain wealth. And so that's what I want to do. I want to acknowledge that it's not from my efforts or my talents or my skills. I want to acknowledge that God allowed me to get that first job. He allowed me to put in effort into things that allowed me to save a little bit starting from zero. And he gave me the ability to do that. And as I look back on my life, I realized that, you know, as Solomon said, time and chance happens to everybody. And I'll try and make a separate video about specific things. But the funny thing is, it's an individual thing. It's an individual thing between myself and God. It's an individual thing between you and God. I think of my own experiences, and the things that I avoided was people saying, here's an opportunity, follow what I'm telling you, and you'll make money. The never abdicate your own responsibility for your own finances. Never put it in the hands of somebody else. It's much better to put it in your own hands. When I started in real estate, I took an investment course called the Real Estate Investment Network. And it was a course that was available from a company based in Alberta. I forget the name of the guy that was in charge of it. They're probably still around. And they had a course that cost $100. And so I said, oh, this seems like it's a good investment. I invested in that course, and it taught me pretty much everything I needed to know about how to rent, how to find a rental property, how to invest in real estate. And throughout my real estate career, when I was heavily involved in real estate, about 10 years, oftentimes people would say to me, oh, you have a rental property. How does that work? How can I get a rental property? Or how does it work that you renovated that home and you sold it, or you did that, or you did this? How can I do that? And so sometimes I would get that question, and I would tell people, well, there's this course that I took. It cost me $100, and it taught me everything I needed to know about investing in real estate. I didn't learn it in school. I didn't learn it in high school. I didn't learn it in college. I didn't learn it in university. But I took this course. It cost me $100, and it showed me how to prosper in real estate. Of all the people that I recommended that course to, do you know how many people went out and bought that course for themselves? 0. None. Not a single person. And I probably recommended that course maybe close to 20 times. Now I'm recommending it to you, but it may be defunct. It may not exist anymore. I haven't looked up that company in many years. Similar to writing. I took courses in writing, how to self-publish, and I studied them and I learned. And there's other ways to self-publish besides Amazon. There's an online program called Medium. Medium is if you don't want to write books, you can write articles, much shorter. But Medium is a woke platform. It's a left-wing platform, and so I wasn't able to continue with Medium because I think it's $50 a year, and you can write as many articles as you want. But there's other online platforms. There's Substack, which is another one. But when it comes to writing, there's courses that you can study on either how to write or how to self-publish or how to write articles, and a lot of times they're of a nominal price, sometimes even free. You can get a lot of free training on the internet now, so you don't even have to spend money for your training. And you can study all kinds of things. You can study computer science for free. Look at Michael Saylor's Academy. So a big part, I think, about prospering is self-education. Excuse me. And putting your plans for prosperity into your own hands. You start with faith. You have the faith to believe that God wants you to prosper. and then you don't abdicate your own responsibility. You put it in your own hands and you take steps to go in that direction. And as you hit a brick wall, you change direction. Of all the business opportunities that I tried, I probably tried a couple of dozen different opportunities, from retail, a commercial selling business, trying to invent things, multi-level, network marketing things, and many different things, investing, and on and on and on, many different things. Some of them had certain levels of success. Some of them were total failures, but it was a gradual learning process. And then the two that ended up working for me was real estate and writing. So what I can share with you that might be helpful to you, I don't know, is mainly having the motivation, having the faith, to perseverance, right? But I think most of it is to study and to find something that resonates with you, something that appeals to your talents, something that appeals to your interests, and then you study that area and see if there's an opportunity for you in that area. And again, it starts with very small baby steps. And a big part of it, I believe, is saving. Because if you're saving, that means you have hope for the future. You have a better future. If every penny that you make just gets spent and then some, so that you're living on credit or you're living on debt, then to me, it's not a sign of faith, because it's like, the psalmist said, might as well just eat, live, and be married, for tomorrow we die. So especially for somebody that's younger, somebody that's maybe in their 20s or 30s, the idea of planning ahead and saying, okay, if I save this much from how much I'm making from my 9 to 5 or whatever job that you're able to have, because most people, you have to start with a job, a job of some type. And so you have that, you budget it, and you say, if I save $50 off every paycheck or $100 off every paycheck. I think for me, the way I calculated it was, if I was able to save X number of dollars, I would have $2,000 at the end of the year saved up. And it was a modest amount. Some people are able to save more, some people are able to save less, but that was the foundation for being able to escape the 9 to 5. Because the first job that I had when I graduated from school, there's still some people that are working at that job. And they probably have another, 10 years to go to retirement or so. So they've probably been working at that same job for 30 years. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. They probably have a very happy, productive career, and they're doing well. They've probably got lots of promotions and salary increases, and they're probably prospering at their own level that they're happy with. I don't look down on them or anything like that. But I'm just saying that if you're not building up momentum, if you're not building up your asset base, then there's no reason to expect that you're going to be financially independent someday. So I hope that helps. I know it's a little bit theoretical, generic, but I'll try and go into more detail about that. If you have any questions for me about anything, let me know. Leave something in the comments. I'll be happy to share with you. My goal is to try and pass on any information that I think might be of value to you, that might inspire you, might encourage you. And so that's why I'm putting this video down and sharing it with you. So I hope that helps. I wish I could go into more detail about a lot of specific topics, but we just don't have time today. People are looking at 30-second sound bites or 1-minute sound bites, And there'll be very few people that will even be able to get through this video from start to finish, simply because of the speed at which society is moving today. Everything is down to fractions of a second, and memes and images and boom, 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 boom. And so to actually be able to sit and listen, or to be able to sit and take a course, it's very, very difficult. So hopefully you put this video on double speed so you don't have to listen to all my ums and ahs and all that kind of stuff. But hopefully it inspires you. If you're just starting out, maybe you're in your 20s and you're not sure what direction to take, I would strongly, strongly encourage you. Ask God for direction. Say, God, what should I do? I want to prosper. Your word says that you want me to prosper according to your own inspirational words through the prophets that said that you're on my side. No matter that I happen to be a despised Gentile, or no matter my background, or no matter where I came from, I want to have faith that you're on my side and you want me to do well. And if you start from that fundamental position of saying, with God's help, you know, the New Testament scripture says, if you say you're going to go over there and you're going to spend time in this such and such a city, and you're going to engage in trade, and you're going to make a profit, and you're going to prosper, it says, don't say that. If you say that, you're not saying the right thing, because you're just a vapor. Your life is like a vapor. You don't even know if you're going to be here today or gone tomorrow. But if you say instead, Lord willing, I'll go to that city. Lord willing, I'll engage in trade and make a profit. Lord willing. Why is it such a difference to acknowledge God? Why does that make such a difference? All I can say is my own testimony is that it made a difference for me in my life. And now that I'm reaching, as I say, I'm reaching my twilight, and I realize now, it doesn't feel like it. But when I look at it on paper and I realize, I say, hey, wait a minute here. I don't have to work for the rest of my life. I can live a quiet, humble, humble. Yeah, here I am with my ego. A quiet, peaceful life. I can pay my taxes. I can contribute to society. I can give a little bit here. I can give a little bit there. I'm not wealthy according to, I'm not multi like you see these people that are buying and selling companies, all that kind of stuff. No, but I have a modest independence, which is extremely, extremely valuable, because it gives you the freedom to pursue what you want to pursue. It gives you the freedom to study. It gives you the freedom to take up an exercise that you enjoy. Maybe it's badminton, maybe it's running or jogging or bicycling. It gives you the freedom to do that, so that you don't have to be tied down to the 9 to 5 or the 7 to 8. Some people have to work 12, 14, 16 hours a day. Maybe they're working in very difficult conditions in a restaurant or in a retail where you have to be there all the time. And so I had to start out that way, as hard as anybody else. But I always said, Lord willing, if I save a little bit and look for opportunities and I ask God to show me those opportunities, then those opportunities will come along. And sure enough, they did. Even though I had many, many, many failures that I don't want to bore you with all the details. But this made all the difference in the world. You know that phrase that says, I took the road less traveled and it made all the difference in the world? Well, what made all the difference in the world for me, I just want to share it with you here today, is that I sought God first. I acknowledged God first, right? When I was 21 years old, I made a commitment to say, okay, God, I want you to be first in my life. I don't want to just do it on my own efforts, because I've seen so much failure, even among people that much more educated than myself, much more talented, much smarter. I mean, just look at all the extremely successful people that you can see in terms of they were highly successful artists or celebrities or famous people, and they crashed and burned at a young age, either from overdose or suicide or what have you. And that hasn't happened to me. God has been faithful to me. He's been so kind to me that I'm able to leave the earth a little bit better off than when I arrived, and to be able to contribute a little bit, hopefully to the point where he says, you did okay. You did a decent job. Now, to whom much is given, much is expected. So I don't know if I've been able to build up treasure in heaven or not. I don't know. I've always said, well, if there's a little place for me, I'm content. A little shack or a little cabin, right? Christ said, in my Father's house are many mansions. Well, I don't need I don't need a mansion. But you know where I'm going with that, right? That to me is the most critical thing, and I'd like to pass that on to whoever might be interested in that, because it means a lot to me. It means a lot to me to be able to share what I think might be helpful to somebody, right? I've made a lot of mistakes. I've had a lot of failures. A lot of my struggle has been with my own personal mental health, right? Just to be able to not self-destruct. And again, if it wasn't for God's help, I probably would have self-destructed a long time ago. But He had mercy on me, and I give all the credit to God, as I believe that I'm supposed to. And so that's another area that I want to spend time studying and focusing on, the idea that we all have this theism as a global attribute that we all share in common. Even though we've got all these different religions, we share a common Heavenly Father that cares about us and loves us and wants us to do well, no matter what our religious background happens to be. Catholic, Muslim, Jewish, to me it makes no difference. It's all theistic based ideology. And so I look at the socio-political spectrum today as two extremes: either a life philosophy that's based on theism, or a life philosophy that's based on atheism. And I believe sincerely that a life philosophy based on theism, with God at the center. See, theism tells me that I'm responsible. I'm responsible to a creator who created me. And I have to be responsible to that creator. So that dictates how I live my life. It doesn't, I'll have to explain this in another video, but when that is not there, what is the foundation for morality? An atheist would say, well, I'm able to be moral. Sam Harris would say, oh, I'm able to be moral just based on not hurting other people and doing good, and so on and so forth. But I believe that at the foundation, if there is no genuine responsibility there, then that structure will crumble. It's like the scripture says that people build their empires on sinking sand. They think that they built a superstructure that endures, but in the end it crumbles. And I've seen that in my own life, by looking around in the world and seeing, these highly successful people that built their lives on a foundation that didn't acknowledge God, and they kind of just, were like a crumbling sandcastle. Not that I've built any kind of superstructure for myself by any means. No, of course not. But like I said, I'm able to live in peace. I'm able to live in harmony with my surroundings and live a fulfilling life that gives me at least a modicum of freedom to be able to not have to live this vicious survival, where you don't know whether you're going to have a meal tomorrow or something like that, or you don't know whether you're going to live. And again, I came from a large family, and growing up, it was we didn't it wasn't from a prosperous background by any means. I started from zero, and I asked God to prosper me, and He had mercy on me. So I hope what I've said today makes sense to you. I know I've rambled on a long time, but I have time. I've got a little bit of time. I've got another hour before I have an appointment to go to. So I'll end it here, and just wish you a fantastic day. Like I said, I hope you're able to speed up this video, because I do talk slow and I do ramble on a lot, but I'm hoping that it encourages somebody out there someday, to inspire them to save, to study, to find what you're good at, to not give up, persevere, and you can build yourself a happy, successful life in whatever area that you feel led to follow. So I'll leave it with that. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you. I know God loves you, and I think I love you too. Take care of yourself. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. See you. Bye-bye.